The world for Ethan was a symphony of touch, sound, and scent, a vibrant tapestry woven from threads unseen. The gentle, insistent tug of Buddy's harness against his palm was a constant, reassuring anchor, a warm, living connection to the path ahead. He felt the subtle shifts in the wind, a cool whisper carrying the distant, sweet scent of blooming jasmine from a nearby park, then the sharper metallic tang of city exhaust. The distant murmur of traffic was a low, comforting hum, punctuated by the staccato rhythm of footsteps on the sidewalk, each distinct and telling. Sunlight, a silent, benevolent warmth, painted patterns on his face, a sensation he cherished, a silent acknowledgement of the day. His cane, a familiar extension of his will, tapped out a quiet, rhythmic cadence against the pavement, not out of helplessness, but as a deliberate dance with the unseen world. Tap-tap, slide, tap-tap. Each resonance, each vibration spoke volumes, revealing the texture of the ground, the subtle incline of a curb, the presence of an approaching obstacle. This rhythmic ballet was a testament to his quiet resilience, a profound adaptability that had transformed his blindness from a perceived limitation into a heightened sense of awareness. But the true magic, the vibrant core of his world, was Buddy. Their bond was more than mere training. It was a profound, almost telepathic understanding, a seamless merging of two souls navigating life as one. Buddy anticipated Ethan's every move, every unvoiced command, his body a living compass, a furry, loyal extension of Ethan's will. A slight shift in Ethan's weight, a subtle tremor in his hand, and Buddy would respond, his head turning, his pace adjusting, their tandem a beautiful, effortless ballet of trust. They moved as a single entity, a harmonious unit amidst the bustling chaos of the city. Despite the constant ebb and flow of life around him, Ethan's routine was a quiet, almost meditative existence. He found solace in predictability, in the familiar sounds and scents that marked his days. He was gentle, unassuming, a quiet observer of a world he perceived through senses beyond sight. One sun-dappled afternoon, as Ethan and Buddy navigated the familiar paths of the local park, the air alive with the laughter of children and the chirping of sparrows, a sudden, sharp cry pierced the playful din. A younger child, perhaps 4 or 5, her attention fully captivated by a brightly colored toy airplane she was chasing, stumbled. She veered directly into Ethan's path, her small, flailing arms pushing the toy ahead of her. Time seemed to compress, the world holding its breath. Before anyone could react, before Ethan could even fully register the sudden shift in the air currents, Buddy acted. With an almost imperceptible shift in pace, a subtle, almost unnoticeable nudge of his powerful body against Ethan's leg, Buddy skillfully diverted Ethan just enough, a mere inch or two, to avoid a collision. The child, sprawling on the grass, let out a startled cry, her toy rolling away. Buddy didn't just avert disaster. With a soft, almost imperceptible whimper of reassurance, he nudged the toy airplane gently with his nose, pushing it back towards the now crying child. He then sat patiently, his tail giving a few soft thumps against the grass, his large, intelligent eyes, a vibrant, compassionate amber, fixed on the bewildered toddler. He whined again, a low, comforting sound that seemed to soothe the child instantly. The girl, still sniffling, reached out and clutched her toy, looking up at Buddy with wide, tear-filled eyes, a flicker of wonder replacing her distress. Ethan, sensing the near miss, the sudden change in pressure on Buddy's harness, the subtle shift in air currents, the child's cry, smiled, a soft, grateful expression gracing his features. He reached down and affectionately stroked Buddy's head. "Good boy, Buddy," he whispered, his voice thick with genuine affection and profound trust. Buddy responded with a deep, contented sigh, leaning into Ethan's touch. This quiet act of instinctive protection and profound empathy, ensuring no one was hurt, instantly showcased Buddy's exceptional intelligence, his gentle nature, and his innate compassion. It was Buddy's save the cat moment, revealing not just a highly trained animal, but a sentient being of remarkable sensitivity, immediately endearing him to the reader and cementing the profound, almost spiritual connection he shared with Ethan. No one else seemed to notice the almost imperceptible finesse with which Buddy had averted the potential mishap. their attention still on the startled child. But Ethan knew. Buddy possessed an uncanny awareness, a perception that went far beyond the typical keen senses of a guide dog. Ethan had noticed it vaguely, but had always dismissed it as part of Buddy's exceptional training. Often, as they walked through the bustling city, Buddy would pause at specific, seemingly random spots. A quiet street corner, the entrance to an old bookstore, even a particular lamppost. His nose would twitch almost imperceptibly, his ears perked forward, as if listening to an inaudible frequency, a silent language unheard by human ears. Occasionally, a low, almost mournful whine would escape his throat, directed at an empty patch of sidewalk or a closed doorway, a sound that always sent a subtle shiver down Ethan's spine. Ethan would sense these shifts in Buddy's demeanor, the sudden rigidity in the harness, the slight tension in his muscles, the almost imperceptible tremor that ran through his body, and would simply attribute them to Buddy's heightened senses, perhaps picking up on a distant siren or an unusual scent. They were just typical guide dog quirks, he reasoned, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet, these subtle behaviors were not random. They were, in reality, early signs of Buddy's exceptional, almost preternatural sensitivity to subtle environmental distress signals, biosignatures of emotional or physical distress, and complex atmospheric shifts. These behaviors, dismissed by casual observers as typical animal quirks, were in fact echoes of his unique, almost legendary training. Buddy was no ordinary guide dog. He was part of a highly experimental program, a lineage of canines bred and trained to perceive and respond to the most subtle nuances of the world, beyond the scope of human perception. There were hushed rumors among certain circles of scientists and dog trainers about a lost program, the Vance Canine Cognition Dynasty, a research initiative that had sought to push the boundaries of interspecies communication and empathy. Buddy was a direct, albeit unrecognized, descendant of that groundbreaking and ultimately suppressed research. He possessed an innate ability to sense subtle physiological changes, emotional distress, and even the unique, almost imperceptible shifts in air pressure that often precede significant human health crises. These unusual habits were creating subtle ripples in the meticulously ordered fabric of Ethan's life, a silent preamble to a dramatic, life-altering event. Ethan, unaware of the profound truth of Buddy's origins, continued to rely on his faithful companion, implicitly trusting the invisible forces that guided their tandem. The quiet old dog, seemingly just a loyal guide, held a secret that would soon shatter the carefully constructed reality of a ruthless veterinarian and a powerful medical corporation, and redefine the very concept of animal intelligence and interspecies communication. The blind boy, leading a quiet life, was about to be led by his extraordinary guide into a revelation that would alter not just their lives, but the fate of a hidden truth. The familiar aroma of old paper and dust, usually a comforting backdrop to Ethan's days, now seemed to twist into something unsettling, a prelude to an unfamiliar disquiet. It was a crisp, clear morning, the kind that usually promised a routine journey to the community library, a path Ethan and Buddy had traversed hundreds, if not thousands, of times. The rhythmic tap of his cane against the familiar cracked pavement, the subtle undulations of the sidewalk, every sensation spoke of comforting predictability. He was looking forward to the quiet hush of the library, the comforting weight of a Braille book in his hands. They approached the bustling intersection of Elm Street and Cedar Avenue, a nexus of familiar sounds. The distant rumble of a bus, the cheerful chirping of sparrows in the oak tree on the corner, the consistent whoosh of cars braking at the traffic light. Buddy, as always, was a steadfast presence at his side, his harness taut, his movements fluid and confident. Ethan mentally prepared for the familiar sensation of the curb, the subtle lean into the crosswalk, the careful navigation of pedestrian chatter. Then it happened. Without warning, without any discernible external cue, no sudden scent of danger, no unexpected sound of distress, Buddy deviated sharply. Instead of taking the usual left turn to cross Elm Street, he pulled abruptly to the right, down an unfamiliar alleyway. It was a narrow, shadowed passage Ethan had never ventured into, a forgotten sliver of the city he knew only from the distant echoes of garbage trucks and the occasional scurrying of unseen creatures. A jolt of alarm, cold and sharp, shot through Ethan. He instinctively pulled gently on the harness, attempting to guide Buddy back to their established route. "Buddy, what is it, boy? Library's this way." His voice was soft, laced with confusion, a hint of his growing unease. But Buddy resisted, his muscles coiling under Ethan's touch, emitting a low, insistent whine. He pulled forcefully, his body language an unmistakable command. This way. Now. This wasn't just a deviation, it was a direct, unsettling challenge to their established trust. Buddy, his loyal, infallible guide, was disobeying a direct command, pulling him into the unsettling unknown. Ethan's mind reeled with a mixture of confusion, a nascent fear, and a flash of irritation. He relied completely on Buddy, and this unexpected disobedience was deeply unsettling. He tried to rationalize it. Perhaps Buddy smelled a cat or heard a faint, distant noise. His fear stemmed from the sudden loss of control, the unnerving vulnerability of being in an unknown, potentially dangerous environment. What if there's an open grate, a discarded piece of glass? He was torn between trusting his loyal guide dog, who had never led him astray, and the innate human fear of the unknown, the dark, unseen corners of the city. However, as Buddy continued to tug with an unusual urgency, a deeper, almost primal instinct stirred within Ethan. He felt an unfamiliar, almost magnetic sense of purpose emanating from Buddy, a silent plea that resonated deep within his chest. It was a feeling he couldn't articulate, a powerful current of conviction flowing from Buddy through the harness, overriding his logical doubts. The low, insistent whines intensified, transforming from a plea into a desperate, urgent summons. Despite his fear, this unexpected, unwavering determination from Buddy sparked a dormant resolve within him, a quiet, almost stubborn determination to follow, no matter how illogical or frightening it seemed. This was a moment of profound internal struggle. Reliance versus intuition, the known versus the unknown. Buddy, sensing Ethan's hesitation, emitted a series of low, urgent barks. It was a sound Ethan had only heard a handful of times in Buddy's life, always in moments of genuine, undeniable emergency. A near miss with an unexpected cyclist, a forgotten step leading to a sudden drop. The barks were not aggressive, but filled with a desperate, pleading urgency, a raw emotional intensity that bypassed Ethan's rational mind and spoke directly to his heart. Buddy pulled even harder on the harness, his body straining, his tail wagging frantically, his entire being radiating an unmistakable, compelling sense of mission. Ethan knew with a certainty that chilled him even as it emboldened him that this was not a playful detour. This was a genuine, inexplicable mission, an unvoiced command from his most trusted companion. He took a deep, shaky breath, letting go of his rigid adherence to routine, pushing aside the fear that pricked at the edges of his consciousness. "Okay, Buddy," he whispered, his voice gaining a newfound firmness, a quiet resolve. "Show me." This was the point of no return. Ethan had made his choice. He had committed to following Buddy into the unknown, trusting his dog's profound intuition over his own deeply ingrained fear and logical reasoning. This decision instantly isolated him from his usual support systems, the familiar paths, the potential for helpful strangers, the comforting presence of his worried parents, who would soon wonder why he hadn't arrived at the library. He was now adrift in an unfamiliar landscape, forced to rely solely on Buddy and his own burgeoning inner strength, embarking on a quest to uncover the true, baffling reason behind Buddy's unprecedented and deeply unsettling behavior. The safe, predictable world he knew had vanished, leaving him on the precipice of an adventure he could never have foreseen. He was no longer just a blind boy being guided. He was a silent partner in a mystery, his path inextricably linked to his extraordinary dog's unspoken plea. The air in the alleyway grew thick with the smell of stale food and damp concrete, each step an amplified declaration in Ethan's heightened world. Buddy, his urgency growing palpable, pulled Ethan deeper into the unfamiliar passage. The rhythmic tap of Ethan's cane, usually a comforting cadence, now echoed with a quiet intensity against the uneven surfaces, the subtle scrape of discarded debris beneath his shoes. Each tug on the harness intensified, Buddy's whines growing more desperate, a low, guttural plea that vibrated through the worn leather. Ethan, disoriented but his trust in Buddy unwavering, followed, his senses straining, every nerve alert to the unseen world around him. He felt the shifting textures beneath his feet, crumbling asphalt giving way to rough brick, then slick, damp earth. The silence, broken only by Buddy's urgent panting and the tapping of his cane, felt immense, pregnant with unspoken meaning. Finally, Buddy stopped abruptly. He let out a sharp, distressed bark, a sound that pierced the heavy silence of the alley. Ethan, feeling the vibrations of the barks reverberate through Buddy's body, instinctively reached out, his hand sweeping across the empty air. His fingers brushed against something cold, rough, the uneven surface of an old brick wall. He slid his hand downwards, following the trajectory of the wall, and then his fingertips encountered something soft, then damp, then distinctly, terrifyingly human. A faint, shallow gasp, almost imperceptible, reached his ears, a fragile whisper of life. His breath hitched in his throat. He immediately realized, with a sickening lurch in his stomach, what Buddy had found. A person, lying unconscious or gravely injured in the shadowy, forgotten corner of the alley. This wasn't a planned rescue. It was a raw, immediate discovery, forced upon him by Buddy's unyielding instinct. The situation demanded immediate, urgent action. The distressing scene was, for a fleeting moment, discovered only by Ethan and Buddy, their silent, urgent communication a testament to their profound bond. However, a solitary figure, a weary, grizzled street sweeper named Sam, was just beginning his shift. He pushed his heavy cart slowly, the rhythmic swish of his broom a quiet counterpoint to the city's distant hum, down the very alleyway, heading towards the area where Buddy and Ethan now stood. Sam, a man whose life had taught him to observe the subtle rhythms of urban life, had an uncanny knack for noticing what others missed. He saw the unusual sight of a blind boy and his guide dog deep in the seldom-used alley, their presence an anomaly in a place usually frequented only by shadows and forgotten things. He noticed Buddy barking urgently, his body language distraught, and Ethan kneeling beside a shadowy, unmoving form. Sam, a man of quiet compassion honed by years of witnessing the city's unseen struggles, immediately recognized the urgency and approached cautiously, his brow furrowed with concern. He was the first external witness to comprehend the true significance of Buddy's deviation, the undeniable proof of his extraordinary perception. Unbeknownst to them, another, far colder pair of eyes was also observing the unfolding drama. High above, almost imperceptible against the overcast sky, a sleek, state-of-the-art drone, its camera lenses gleaming with advanced optics, hovered silently. It belonged to Dr. Eris Thorne, the renowned veterinarian and director of the city's most prestigious animal research facility, the Apex Canine Institute. Dr. Thorne was a man driven by a ruthless pursuit of scientific glory and illicit financial gain, his ethical compass long since shattered by ambition. For months, he had been secretly monitoring the city's guide dog network, searching for a unique neural signature, a hidden frequency, a subtle pulse he had secretly implanted in Buddy during a routine checkup months ago. It was part of an unethical, high-stakes experiment, a clandestine project to enhance canine cognitive abilities for military applications, all under the guise of advanced guide dog training. He had chosen Buddy because of his already exceptional genetic predisposition and uncanny intelligence, making him the perfect, unwitting subject. Thorne's hidden drone, equipped with advanced biometric and emotional sensors, captured the exact moment Buddy discovered the unconscious person and Ethan's subsequent response. A cold, calculating glint appeared in Thorne's eyes as he watched the live feed on his monitor. He immediately recognized the profound significance of Buddy's actions. The guide dog had used the implant not just to navigate, but to detect and respond to a subtle human distress signal, far beyond the scope of conventional training. This was a breakthrough, but one that, if revealed publicly, would expose his illicit experiments and destroy his career, leading to his professional ruin and potentially criminal charges. Upon observing Buddy's highly unusual behavior and the life-saving discovery, Dr. Eris Thorne, the villainous director of the Apex Canine Institute, took immediate, calculated action. He slammed his fist on his desk, the sound echoing in his sterile office. No, he muttered, his voice a low, venomous growl. "This cannot come out. Not now." He knew, with a chilling certainty, that Buddy's deviation and the subsequent discovery of a gravely injured person were direct, irrefutable evidence of the extraordinary success of his unethical neural implant. A breakthrough that, in the wrong hands, would expose his illicit experiments and destroy his carefully constructed empire of deception. He immediately dispatched 2 of his highly trained, intimidating operatives. They were former military, now employed as security specialists at the Apex Institute, known for their unwavering loyalty and their ability to operate outside conventional lines. Thorne dressed them in crisp, official-looking uniforms, complete with Apex Canine Institute patches, and briefed them with a cold precision. "You are to proceed to the alleyway immediately," he instructed, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Locate the guide dog, Buddy. Confiscate him under the guise of a routine welfare check and unstable behavior reports. Ensure there is no public incident. Bring him back to the facility for re-evaluation. And make sure the boy, and anyone else, understand that this is standard procedure. No questions asked." Their objective was clear: to confiscate Buddy, effectively silencing the guide dog and preventing any further investigation into his anomalous behavior or the circumstances of the alleyway discovery. Thorne's actions were not merely about retrieving his experimental subject. They were calculated attempts to eliminate evidence, suppress the truth, and maintain his deceptive facade of ethical scientific research, cementing his malicious, morally bankrupt nature as the central antagonist. He planned to analyze Buddy's implant thoroughly, then retire Buddy, a euphemism for permanently containing him in a hidden, secure facility, ensuring his secret remained safe, his unethical research undisturbed, and his scientific legacy unchallenged, even if it meant sacrificing the life of an innocent animal and the well-being of a vulnerable boy. The quiet alley, once a scene of unexpected heroism, was about to become a battleground for truth against deception. The grand, formal main hall of the City Hall, usually a bastion of hushed legal proceedings, now thrummed with a palpable tension. Its polished marble floors reflected the harsh glare of overhead lights, illuminating rows of plush, empty seats that would soon be filled with eager citizens, local journalists, and, most importantly, the members of the Emergency Animal Welfare Tribunal. This was no ordinary meeting. It was a highly publicized hearing, a crucible where the fate of Buddy and the hidden truth of Dr. Eris Thorne's unethical practices would be decided. For Ethan, it was more than just a hearing. It was the symbolic arena where he would either reclaim Buddy's freedom and defend the intuitive bond they shared, or watch as Dr. Thorne's scientific arrogance and corporate greed consumed another innocent life. Dr. Thorne himself was already present, a grim, self-satisfied sentinel at the head of a long table, his presence a constant, sneering reminder of Ethan's perceived helplessness. Ethan stood off to the side, near a podium reserved for public speakers, a solitary figure amidst the growing bustle. His simple, well-worn clothes, though meticulously clean, contrasted sharply with the custom-tailored suits of Dr. Thorne and his formidable legal entourage. Their presence radiated an aura of unassailable authority, their expensive briefcases resting heavily on the table before them. Ethan had only himself, Buddy patiently sitting at his feet, and a small worn satchel containing his prototype empathic interface device. While Sam, the street sweeper, his newfound helper and an astute ally, was present, a comforting, if distant, presence in the audience, quietly armed with carefully prepared, irrefutable observations of Buddy's unusual, yet compassionate deviation. The intellectual, emotional, and technical battle of revealing Buddy's revolutionary, resonant canine cognition and challenging Thorne's lies rested solely on Ethan. He had to rely on his raw intuition, Buddy's undeniable bond, and his unwavering conviction in his guide dog's unique abilities, despite the overwhelming skepticism from the tribunal members, including Councilwoman Eleanor Vance, a stern, formal, but ultimately fair judge who represented institutional skepticism and Thorne's constant, critical gaze. The hearing commenced with a predictable rhythm of procedural announcements. Then, Dr. Eris Thorne, leveraging his immense scientific reputation and formidable influence as a visionary researcher, stepped to the main podium. He began his introductory remarks with a polished, self-aggrandizing speech, his voice resonating with cultivated authority. He spoke of maintaining the highest standards of animal welfare through controlled scientific research, the necessity of expert intervention in cases of unpredictable animal behavior, and the timeless elegance of pure, unadulterated scientific progress. His words, though seemingly generic, were sharp, subtle barbs aimed directly at Buddy's unstable deviation, and by extension at Ethan's unproven methods. He subtly hinted at uncontrolled variables and unverified training methodologies, effectively undermining any credibility Ethan possessed, and attempting to influence the tribunal members towards his own rigid, profit-driven scientific dogma. "Tonight," Dr. Thorne declared, his gaze sweeping over the formal setting, lingering for a fraction of a second too long on Ethan's unassuming figure, "we will discern the true path forward for our city's animal welfare. We will see who possesses the disciplined foresight, the refined scientific palate, and the inherent understanding of true canine potential that elevates mere sentimentality to genuine, data-driven progress. This is not a playground for unverified anecdotes, but a crucible for proven ethical research." The audience, largely composed of local benefactors, influential animal rights activists from Thorne's other ventures, and a scattering of skeptical community members, nodded in polite agreement. This was his moment, his triumph. He concluded by confidently predicting a future generation of animal care that honors the legacy of true scientific innovators, subtly solidifying the perception that only conventional, classical, profit-driven research held true value. The air thrummed with expectation, the low murmur of conversations punctuated by the occasional clinking of water glasses from the tribunal table. A powerful, influential tribunal member, the Chief Justice of Public Safety, Dame Alistair Vance, a sharp, discerning public servant known for her integrity, and, unbeknownst to Thorne, a distant relative of Ethan's, with a severe, inscrutable expression, known for her meticulous attention to ethical detail, approached the main tribunal table. She was about to announce the final verdict on Buddy's confiscation, a moment that would further cement Thorne's perceived authority and legally seal Buddy's fate, likely leading to his retirement from active service and complete isolation from Ethan. Ethan felt the time pressure acutely. He had a narrow, self-imposed window, mere minutes, to present his alternative revolutionary evidence of Buddy's advanced cognitive abilities, evidence designed not just to save Buddy, but to redefine canine intelligence and ethical research. The tension was amplified by the presence of a live international news audience, whose expectations for drama were palpable. Dr. Thorne, never one to miss an opportunity for psychological warfare, continued his subtle campaign of intimidation. "Remember, tribunal members," he drawled into the microphone, his voice dripping with condescension, "a true master of animal behavior can elevate even the humblest of breeds. But a true master also knows the limits of their abilities. One cannot simply will advanced cognition into existence. It must be inherited, cultivated, refined through generations of shrewd, ethical breeding. Some, unfortunately, are simply not born with it." He then spent an additional 15 minutes lecturing on modern eccentricities and undisciplined self-expression in animal training, subtly mocking any form of animal welfare or community-focused research that veered from his prescribed path. He believed he was educating, guiding, but in reality, he was imposing his prejudices, reinforcing a system that stifled genuine scientific inquiry rather than fostering it. He was confident that, by the end of this hearing, Ethan would either conform or simply give up, proving his point about Ethan's lack of serious scientific ambition. As Ethan prepared his prototype empathic interface device, discreetly connecting it to a hidden port he'd identified earlier at the podium, Dr. Thorne intensified his subtle efforts to sabotage him. He whispered distracting remarks to a nearby journalist, making false claims about Ethan's supposed unprofessionalism and unproven track record. He even subtly signaled his hired IT associate, a smarmy man named Kenneth, who sat inconspicuously in the front row, giving him a barely perceptible nod. Kenneth, using a tablet concealed under his jacket, began to quietly tap away, attempting to hack into the City Hall's public display system, aiming to corrupt Ethan's live projection if he dared to present it. Thorne wanted to ensure Ethan's presentation, if he even managed one, would be a public disaster. The dramatic irony in the room was almost suffocating. The hundreds of seemingly sophisticated minds in the audience, the esteemed tribunal members, the eager philanthropists, the influential journalists, and Dr. Thorne himself, were utterly oblivious to the true, multi-layered war that was about to unfold. They were listening to the swan song of an old paradigm of animal research, completely unaware that a quiet, overlooked blind boy, armed with his crazy invention, a profound understanding of canine cognition rooted in a forgotten family legacy, held the key to transforming the very definition of animal intelligence and exposing the profound intellectual arrogance of their celebrated scientist. They saw only the surface, blinded by their own prejudices and preconceptions of what scientific discovery should be. Thorne, basking in the glow of the spotlights, prepared to deliver his final triumphant pronouncement, oblivious that the meaningless scribbles of Ethan's true genius, the very essence of the unsuitable life he had dismissed, were about to become the hammer that shattered his carefully constructed world and redefined the boundaries of animal welfare forever. Ethan took a deep breath, clutching his prototype, his gaze fixed on the imposing figure at the podium. His moment, the moment of truth, was upon him. The faint hum of his device, barely audible beneath the escalating tension, was a quiet prelude to the scientific revolution he was about to unleash. The rhythmic clinking of crystal glasses and the polite murmur of conversation, once the deceptive calm before the storm, had transformed into an electrifying silence that crackled with anticipation. Dr. Eris Thorne, a man radiating smug satisfaction, stood at the gleaming podium, bathed in the cool glow of professional spotlights. He had just concluded his polished, self-aggrandizing remarks, praising the discipline and adherence to timeless forms of scientific research. On the immense digital display behind him, a slideshow of his breakthrough research, graphs charting improved canine performance, sterile images of his state-of-the-art facility, shimmered, a visual testament to his unyielding scientific dogma and financial prowess. He turned to acknowledge the polite applause, his hand already reaching for a crystal glass of water, a perfectly orchestrated moment of triumph. This was the crescendo of his scientific reign, and for a fleeting second, the sheer weight of his established dominance threatened to crush Ethan. The air crackled with the triumph of established dogma and unquestioned authority, seeming to drown out Ethan's vital truth. This was the bated breath moment for Ethan. Everything seemed to conspire against him, his profound vision seemingly lost amidst the polished rhetoric and the pervasive acceptance of Thorne's pronouncements. Just as Dr. Thorne turned, a self-satisfied smile playing on his lips, Ethan acted. A subtle digital alert, an almost imperceptible shimmer on the compact tablet hidden within the folds of his worn coat, confirmed the critical moment. His real-time neural interface sensors, discreetly integrated into the podium's internal systems hours earlier by a sympathetic technical assistant, influenced by Sam, indicated the perfect ambient conditions for a live, visual demonstration of Buddy's unique neural signature. His voice, initially a mere tremor of resolve, gained an unexpected clarity, cutting through the polite murmurs like a finely sharpened blade. "Dr. Thorne," he called out, stepping forward from the periphery of the public speaking station, his simple, unadorned attire a stark contrast to the glittering suits that filled the hall. "With all due respect, your timeless forms have a fundamental oversight." A collective gasp swept through the auditorium, a ripple of astonished whispers. Ethan's sudden, audacious interruption of such a prestigious event was itself a profound shock. Dr. Thorne, startled, spun around, his polished smile instantly replaced by a scowl of pure disbelief and seething irritation. He recognized Ethan. "Mr. Finch?" he sneered, his voice now laced with undisguised contempt, amplified by the podium microphone. "I believe we settled your childish fantasies months ago. This is hardly the time or place for your bizarre disruptions. Return to your seat." Several guests turned, their faces a mixture of embarrassment and annoyance, urging Ethan to comply with their disapproving glares. One even hissed, "Don't you dare ruin this, sir. This is serious business." But Ethan stood his ground, his eyes fixed on Dr. Thorne, a quiet fire burning within them, fueled by years of dismissal and the urgent necessity of his mission. "The meaningless scribbles you've been overlooking, Dr. Thorne," Ethan stated, his voice clear and resonant, projecting throughout the cavernous hall. "They weren't just theoretical. They are a fundamental flaw in your entire paradigm, and they're about to be exposed. Your model of true canine cognition is obsolete." He stepped further forward, towards the main stage, his movements deliberate and unwavering, his every step radiating quiet conviction. He held his prototype empathic interface device aloft, not as a weapon, but as a beacon of defiance. Thorne, incandescent with rage and a dawning, unwelcome tremor of professional fear, moved to block Ethan. "Security!" he bellowed, his voice echoing through the hall, tinged with a desperation that was uncharacteristic. "Remove this insane trespasser. He's a disruptor, a fraud." Just as a burly event security guard began to move from the back of the room, Ethan reached the edge of the stage. With a swift, almost practiced motion, he pulled out his hidden, compact prototype empathic interface device from a specially designed pocket in his coat. Simultaneously, he tapped a discreet earpiece, his voice calm but firm as he spoke into a hidden mic connected to Sam, who was already positioned at a pre-arranged technical console backstage, having anticipated Ethan's audacious move. "Sam, prepare for emergency protocol. I'm taking manual override of the main display, initiating live neural feed." He connected a small, inconspicuous data cable from his prototype device to a nearby, seemingly innocuous podium port, bypassing the summit's main digital display system. The elegant graphics of Thorne's research vanished, replaced by a stark black screen that suddenly flashed with complex, pulsing neural data streams. "Your conventional animal research," Ethan stated, his voice resonating with quiet, unshakable command, "presumes a linear progression of behavior and a finite definition of intelligence. But what if the source of true canine cognition is fractal? What if the solution to interspecies communication is being overlooked from multiple, unseen dimensions of neural flow, interconnectedness, and empathetic potential?" With dazzling speed and precision, he activated his prototype, and its quiet hum filled a part of the hall, barely audible at first. Simultaneously, he began to manipulate the interface on his device. Elegant, fluid lines of real-time neural data, ambient environmental conditions, subtle physiological responses, even the unique vibrational patterns of Buddy's whines, flowed onto the immense screen behind him, overlaid with the stunning visual cryptography of his unique, resonant canine cognition system. Swirling fractals, interconnected nodes, and self-evolving geometric patterns, each corresponding to a specific algorithmic function within his design, now actively processed the sensory conditions of the hall. These scribbles, as Thorne had scornfully called Ethan's subtle design marks and systemic optimizations, were now demonstrably active, a living, breathing testament to his revolutionary approach. Each stroke on his device's interface was deliberate, each line of data a precise hammer blow against the conventional, less dynamic models of animal research and perception. He filled the screen not with complexity for complexity's sake, but with an astonishing, almost frightening clarity that laid bare the fundamental oversight at the heart of Dr. Thorne's vulnerable, conventionally secured scientific dominance. His data projected unprecedented canine resonance, capable of generating profound empathetic and functional experiences at a fraction of the effort, and at a scale that could genuinely redefine animal intelligence. Then came the bated breath moment. Dr. Thorne, initially scoffing, his arms crossed, his face a mask of patronizing disbelief, suddenly froze. His eyes, fixed on the rapidly scrolling data and the intricate pulsing patterns that seemed to shift and evolve on the screen, widened imperceptibly. He saw the sheer volume of environmental variables being processed, the speed of the device's calculations, the undeniable precision of the visual output projections, a direct challenge to his core scientific tenets. He opened his mouth to retort, to dismiss it as a trick, but no sound came out. The security guard, halfway to the stage, paused, his brow furrowed, caught by the sheer audacity and inexplicable technical sophistication of Ethan's impromptu live demonstration. On stage, Dr. Thorne was mid-sentence, his hand raised to announce the final phase of his Apex Animal Enhancement Initiative, when the immense digital display, now controlled by Ethan's prototype, flashed. It didn't just flicker to a new set of data. A series of angry red lines of code, clearly from the City Hall's internal network, began to scroll frantically across the screen, overlaid with a stark, taunting message. System compromised, ethics depreciating. Your control is an illusion. This was not Ethan's doing, but the simultaneous cyber attack launched by a group of disillusioned animal rights activists and radical bioethics researchers, operating under the clandestine moniker the Sentient Collective. They were hitting the City Hall's public records and Dr. Thorne's hidden corporate network, precisely as Thorne was speaking, exposed and amplified by Ethan's accidental system override. Dr. Thorne's corporate website, which had previously displayed the prestigious list of his successful projects, began to glitch and then plummeted into an alarming display of distorted abstract images and flashing red alerts. A collective gasp swept through the gala, followed by an electrifying, horrified silence. Dame Alistair Vance, the sharp Chief Justice of Public Safety, her eyes wide with a mix of horror and exhilaration, began furiously typing on her phone, her scandalous story about Thorne's scientific dominance shifting dramatically. Simultaneously, in a hidden back room, the City Hall's official IT team was in a frenzy, shouting about rapidly disappearing digital assets, unprecedented data breaches, and seemingly impenetrable firewalls. "It's a full-spectrum digital ethics attack," yelled one frantic technician, his voice cracking. "Their research files are worthless. Our public trust is gone." Sam, sweating and frantic at his prearranged console, stared at a screen displaying a cascade of encrypted data, recognizing the unique, visual patterns of Ethan's art embedded within the streaming neural data. These patterns were now changing with blinding speed, not just demonstrating his device, but inadvertently creating a digital shield, an unexpected anomaly against the Sentient Collective's malicious code, by virtue of the sheer complexity and nonlinear logic of his system. He pointed frantically to Ethan, who had just connected his prototype, his face grimly determined, now fully aware of the digital crossfire he had stumbled into. "It's his code. His system is somehow disrupting their attack. You're the only one who can control this, Ethan." Just as Dr. Thorne's scientific empire seemed irretrievably lost, as the City Hall's digital legacy plunged further into oblivion, Ethan, with a final, almost imperceptible adjustment to a sequence of geometric patterns on his device's interface, executed a masterstroke. He wasn't just demonstrating his invention, he was leveraging its underlying unique algorithm, designed for complex pattern recognition and resource optimization, to inadvertently neutralize the malicious cyber attack. The patterns on the main screen locked into place, transforming into a glowing, impenetrable fortress of visual code. On the main summit screen, the Sentient Collective's angry red message froze, then began to dissolve, replaced not just by Ethan's own elegant green patterns of sustainable neural flow, but by real-time data showing the City Hall's digital assets plummeting, then inexplicably stabilizing, then slowly, agonizingly, beginning to recover, as Ethan's system inadvertently isolated and neutralized the deepest, most damaging elements of the Sentient Collective's digital assault, while simultaneously exposing Thorne's vulnerabilities for all to see. The hackers' attack not only halted, but their own malicious code seemed to recoil, their digital tools rendered ineffective by the sheer, unexpected elegance of Ethan's non-linear system. This unexpected, devastatingly powerful reversal simultaneously silenced the hackers, salvaged the City Hall from complete digital ruin, and stunned everyone by proving Ethan's genius was not only in canine cognition, but in a profound, almost accidental, understanding of complex systemic vulnerabilities and digital security. Dr. Thorne's face contorted. The arrogance drained from him, leaving behind a pallor of utter intellectual devastation and a profound public humiliation. His eyes, usually sharp and dismissive, glazed over as he stared at the screen, then at Ethan, his empire saved, yet fundamentally exposed and transformed before his very eyes. Dame Alistair Vance's skeptical sneer dissolved into a look of astonished professional wonder, her prepared speech about conventional animal research completely irrelevant. Councilwoman Eleanor Vance, initially dismissive, watched in stunned silence, a look of dawning shame and profound regret slowly replacing her usual haughty demeanor. The audience, initially confused by the flicker, erupted in a spontaneous, thunderous applause as the digital assets were confirmed, then slowly began to recover, unaware of the full digital war that had just taken place, but recognizing the restored, though now vulnerable, grandeur of the City Hall, and the quiet, unassuming figure who had made it possible. For Ethan, the victory was quiet, but profound. The vindication of his true genius, the revolutionary nature of his art as a technological solution, and the ultimate triumph of underestimated talent over elitism, academic dogma, and superficiality. The thunderous applause for Ethan, still ringing in the Grand City Hall auditorium, was a death knell for Dr. Eris Thorne's unassailable facade. He stood on stage, a visibly shaken man, his face a mask of utter humiliation amidst the wreckage of his professional pretense and the near-digital ruin of the City Hall's public safety archives. The international media, initially focused on his grand pronouncements, swiveled their cameras. They captured the quiet, once-dismissed blind boy, who had not only unveiled a world-changing canine cognition theory, but had also, inadvertently, salvaged the city's plummeting digital legacy from a full-scale cyber attack, all while exposing Dr. Thorne's deep-seated prejudices and corporate fraud. The online livestream of the hearing, which had been recording the entire dramatic sequence, was quickly going viral, capturing every second of Dr. Thorne's unraveling and Ethan's quiet yet profound triumph. Dr. Thorne's downfall. Dr. Thorne's downfall was swift, absolute, and brutally public. Within hours, clips of his dismissive comments about Ethan's childish fantasies and meaningless scribbles were juxtaposed with live footage of Ethan effortlessly stabilizing the City Hall's collapsing digital archives and demonstrating the revolutionary, resonant properties of Buddy's neural activity. His pristine reputation as an infallible scientist and a discerning corporate titan was not merely tarnished. It was shattered into a million pieces. His numerous interviews with prominent scientific journals, where he had espoused on proven research models and established masters, while subtly mocking naive, unproven idealists, now served as damning testaments to his profound arrogance and intellectual blindness, fueling a firestorm of ridicule across traditional and social media platforms. Foundations and benefactors, unnerved by the public display of digital vulnerability, the near-catastrophic attack on the city's records, and Dr. Thorne's sheer arrogance that had almost cost the public safety sector its digital legacy, began discreetly canceling funding and proposed collaborations. His research facilities, though digitally stabilized by Ethan's accidental intervention, remained volatile, their future uncertain under Dr. Thorne's discredited leadership. Animal welfare societies and bioethics boards, alerted by the hearing's chaos and the public outcry, launched immediate investigations into his rigid research practices, his fraudulent claims of ethical conduct, and his attempts to suppress competing unconventional scientific expressions. Citizen protests, fueled by a newfound appreciation for scientific freedom and authentic interspecies communication, crippled his remaining authority, as public sentiment overwhelmingly shifted towards supporting Ethan's innovative, inclusive vision of animal welfare over Dr. Thorne's dogmatic, exclusionary approach. Dr. Thorne was forced to issue a humiliating public statement, a bitter acknowledgement of Ethan's pivotal, albeit unexpected, role in averting a complete digital collapse and implicitly acknowledging the transformative potential of his unique canine cognition vision. This was a bitter pill for his ingrained elitism and towering ego. While the City Hall's digital infrastructure was not completely ruined, thanks to Ethan's unwitting intervention, Dr. Thorne's personal and professional standing plummeted. He became a pariah within the very academic and research circles he had so desperately sought to impress and dominate. He lost all that he had valued, his high-profile projects, his sponsorships, his carefully constructed legacy, to the undeniable truth Ethan had unveiled, not just about his resonant canine cognition, but about the true cost of unchecked corporate arrogance, intellectual rigidity, and outright fraud. His pride, the very engine of his ambition, had consumed him, leaving only public shame and professional ruin in its wake. He was ultimately forced to resign from his position at Apex Canine Institute and effectively blacklisted from the upper echelons of the scientific world, his name now synonymous with a colossal failure of vision and ethics in animal research. The revelation of the lost empathic canine, Buddy, as part of a stolen collection of experimental animals he intended to claim as his own breakthrough, led to a full-scale police investigation, likely culminating in criminal charges for scientific fraud and grand theft, ensuring his total and utter destruction. Ethan's new dawn. For Ethan, the world shifted from dim lamplight to blinding brilliance. The sheer audacity, elegance, and undeniable efficacy of his resonant canine cognition, his unique symbolic design language, and its unexpected digital capabilities, immediately captivated the global scientific community and animal welfare organizations. Dame Alistair Vance, the shrewd Chief Justice of Public Safety, who had recognized the ancient origins of Ethan's techniques and the subtle nuances of his doodles in the patterns of his designs, wasted no time. She immediately approached Ethan, bypassing conventional academic and corporate hierarchies, with an offer that was both unprecedented and irresistible. She secured Ethan a full professorship at the prestigious Lumen Institute of Interspecies Studies, an exclusive progressive research academy known for fostering visionary and avant-garde animal scientists and ethicists, providing unprecedented creative control over a newly established division dedicated to interdisciplinary resonant cognition. This wasn't merely an academic opportunity. It was an invitation to transform his art into a legitimate, groundbreaking field of study, blending ancient knowledge with modern technology. He was no longer burdened by financial worries or the suffocating constraints of academic marginalization. His cramped alleyway existence, his makeshift lab in his mind, and the constant struggle for basic necessities were exchanged for a spacious, state-of-the-art research studio within the Lumen Institute's secure headquarters. Its walls, once bare, were soon adorned not with textbooks, but with groundbreaking new diagrams of his evolving resonant patterns and the intricate schematics of interactive human-animal communication installations. He was given complete intellectual freedom, an unlimited budget for research and development, and the autonomy to build a team of brilliant, like-minded, and open-minded animal behaviorists, neurologists, and technologists, eager to explore the new frontiers of interspecies communication and perception he had unveiled through design. His former struggles transformed into a position of profound influence, intellectual leadership, and scientific impact, his quiet brilliance finally given the platform it deserved. Meanwhile, Councilwoman Eleanor Vance, the Type B antagonist, experienced a profound public moment of realization and repentance. Witnessing Ethan's undeniable genius and the full extent of Dr. Thorne's malice, Councilwoman Vance was overcome with shame. She publicly apologized to Ethan, her voice cracking with genuine remorse, acknowledging her own prejudice and the unfairness she had previously contributed to. Her repentance was tangible. She offered to champion Buddy's cause and allocate significant public funds to support Ethan's initiatives, becoming a vocal advocate for ethical animal research and the recognition of hidden talent. She even requested a transfer to the City Hall's Public Safety Task Force, where she committed to protecting its ethical integrity with renewed purpose. A shared reflection. A few weeks after the hearing, Ethan sat with Buddy, Sam, his helper, and now a trusted research assistant, and Dame Alistair Vance, his distant relative and an astute ally, in the quiet solitude of his new studio at the Lumen Institute. The late afternoon sun streamed through a large skylight, dappling through the leaves of a towering fig tree in a planter, casting shifting patterns on the polished concrete floor. The air, unusually fresh for the city, carried the faint scent of new blueprints and fresh coffee, a comforting balm after the sterile environment of the hearing. "You know, Ethan," Sam began, his voice soft, a warm, almost reverent smile on his face. "When I first saw Buddy lead you into that alley, and then watched you on that stage, it's not just a paradigm shift, it's a revolution. You've redefined what's possible in animal cognition and in how we perceive intelligence. To think, Dr. Thorne dismissed it as clumsy from a misguided boy. The irony is almost poetic." He gestured vaguely towards the window where the city skyline shimmered. He thought he was protecting science, but he was just limiting it. Ethan stroked Buddy's head, the dog resting peacefully at his feet. It was always there, Sam. The numbers, the patterns in nature, the way reality organizes itself, the inherent language of the universe. People just couldn't see it because it didn't fit their predefined frameworks. Dr. Thorne couldn't see it because his ego and greed blinded him to any value outside his narrow, academically defined world. He saw science as something to be controlled, to be acquired, not something to be felt, to be discovered. He chose to betray our family's true legacy for his own fabricated one. And your courage, Dame Alistair added, her voice soft but firm. To stand up there, alone, against decades of entrenched corporate thought and a man who could professionally crush you. That's as profound as your genius. Many brilliant minds get silenced because they lack that courage. It makes me wonder, Dame Alistair mused, her gaze sweeping over the cityscape. How many other insignificant variables, how many other primitive scribblings are waiting to be understood? How many other truths are being missed because we're too set in our ways, too quick to dismiss what doesn't fit our preconceived notions, or because it comes from a place we deem unworthy? Their reflective dialogue, though brief, encapsulated the intricate journey they had shared, the unexpected twists of intellectual discovery, and the profound lessons learned about the nature of truth, the dangers of academic and social dogma, and the bravery it takes to challenge established norms for the greater good. Ethan looked out at the vibrant city, a subtle shift in his posture reflecting his journey from a quiet, overlooked blind boy to a recognized intellectual leader and canine cognition visionary. The world no longer seemed a place of silent struggle, but one of boundless possibility, a world brimming with hidden patterns waiting to be understood, and problems waiting for compassionate solutions. The universe is always whispering its secrets, Alistair, he replied, a thoughtful glint in his eyes. And humanity is always in need of its truths. We just have to be willing to listen, even when the whispers challenge everything we think we know, even when they come from a humble dog and a quiet blind boy. His words, simple yet profound, resonated with the quiet strength he had discovered within himself, marking not just the resolution of a conflict, but the dawn of a new era of open inquiry and boundless intellectual exploration in a world now irrevocably altered by his unique vision and his crazy invention. 5 years later, the scent of antiseptic, mingling with the subtle fragrance of freshly laundered linens and the quiet, contented sighs of recovering animals, filled Ethan Finch's spacious minimalist studio. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a meticulously cultivated urban garden, illuminating a large, interactive display that showcased real-time global animal welfare trends. Vibrant green where once there was suffering, a testament to his vision. Gone were the makeshift components and the harsh concrete of forgotten alleyways. In their place, sleek, self-sustaining resonant canine cognition installations, the evolution of his crazy invention, were being meticulously designed and prototyped. His once cramped existence in a forgotten alleyway was a distant memory, replaced by a workspace that pulsed with quiet intellectual energy and a profound sense of purpose. He still worked late into the night, driven by the same insatiable curiosity that had fueled him in solitude, yet now supported by a global team of brilliant animal behaviorists, perceptive neurologists, and innovative technologists, all eager to expand the reach and understanding of his groundbreaking interspecies communication system. Ethan Finch, once a solitary shadow dismissed by an arrogant security guard, was now a world-renowned pioneer, his system forming the cornerstone of a new global animal welfare paradigm. Ethan was deeply committed to paying it forward. He understood the quiet despair of being overlooked, the burning frustration of having truth dismissed, and the profound impact of a single act of kindness or cruelty. Leveraging his position as the Chief Innovations Officer of the Lumen Institute's Interdisciplinary Resonant Cognition Division and the driving force behind the burgeoning Resonant Canine Cognition movement, he established the Buddy's Beacon Fund for Exceptional Animals. This nonprofit organization provided generous scholarships, state-of-the-art rehabilitation studios, and invaluable mentorship to aspiring animal researchers and advocates, particularly those from marginalized communities or unconventional backgrounds who were pursuing radical potentially paradigm-shifting ideas in animal communication and digital integration that might otherwise be stifled by traditional corporate or academic structures. He ensured these aspiring minds had the financial freedom, intellectual support, and access to resources he had so desperately lacked during his own formative years. His foundation actively sought out students and researchers who saw connections where others saw only disparate fields, fostering an environment where daring questions and unorthodox approaches to animal cognition, bioacoustics, and technological empathy were celebrated, not suppressed. He believed that every individual, human or animal, held a unique internal design language, and his programs sought to provide the tools and freedom for those voices to emerge. He frequently gave public lectures, not just on the intricate theories behind his resonant canine cognition, but on the importance of intellectual honesty, compassionate courage, and the necessity of questioning established norms. His voice, once soft and hesitant, now carried a powerful message that resonated far beyond the confines of the animal welfare world, inspiring countless individuals to trust their unique visions and challenge the status quo in their own fields. He often spoke of the hidden patterns in the universe, the fractal truths that reveal themselves when one is willing to look beyond conventional boundaries and embrace solutions from unexpected sources, from the scribbles of the dismissed to the profound insights of the overlooked. His personal story, now a public legend, served as a powerful testament to his philosophy. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Ethan stood before a packed auditorium at the prestigious Global Interspecies Summit in Geneva, a forum that, years prior, Dr. Eris Thorne had only ever dreamed of attending, still touting his traditionalist research dogma in small regional conferences. But today, the air in the gleaming Geneva hall was vibrant with eager anticipation, not stifling academic orthodoxy. He was explaining a particularly complex aspect of his resonant canine cognition technology, his fingers gliding across a vast interactive display, sketching an elegant, swirling, self-evolving equation. It was the very equation that, years ago, Dr. Thorne had scorned as doodling, the visual representation of the algorithm that had not only brought profound empathetic experiences to animal care worldwide, but had inadvertently shielded the City Hall's digital archives from utter collapse, revealing his profound oversight and securing a future for his, now very different, animal welfare department. The symbolism was not lost on the audience. He paused, turning to the diverse audience, a mix of seasoned veterinarians, curious philanthropists, and eager young scientists from every corner of the globe, his eyes alight with the same quiet passion that had driven him through countless lonely nights in a damp alleyway. "This equation," he said, gesturing to the glowing symbols behind him, which pulsed with a soft internal light, was once dismissed as mere clumsiness. It was considered unconventional, impractical, even crazy, because it didn't fit neatly into existing frameworks of animal behavior or technological understanding. It challenged everything we thought we knew about the very nature of non-human sentience, their communication, and their impact, and even digital resilience. But the natural world, much like the digital realm, doesn't care about our preconceptions or our academic structures. It simply is. He smiled, a profound, knowing smile that carried the wisdom of his extraordinary journey. Our task, as innovators, as artists, as problem solvers, isn't to force the world into our existing frameworks, but to listen to its whispers, to follow the truth wherever it leads, no matter how uncomfortable or revolutionary it may seem. Sometimes, the most robust solution is the one that looks like a piece of abstract art. Sometimes, the most profound breakthrough comes from the most unexpected place, from a voice that was once utterly dismissed, from a simple drawing in the hands of a quiet blind boy. The equation, now widely accepted and taught as fundamental in advanced cognitive theory, computational empathy, and even interspecies communication studies worldwide, was not merely a formula. It was a living, breathing symbol of the profound shift he had brought about. It was a beacon of truth illuminating a new path for global understanding and human-animal cooperation between species. Ethan stood at the nexus of a thriving intellectual and humanitarian community, no longer confined to the shadows of an alley, but a guiding light for the future of animal welfare, biotechnology, human ingenuity, and global well-being. He had not only disproven a dismissive security guard's prejudiced judgment, but, in doing so, had opened up an entirely new dimension of human potential, proving that even the most quiet and unassuming voices, armed with truth and unwavering conviction, can echo with the loudest, most world-changing impact, perpetually seeking the next uncharted frontier of knowledge and compassion. His art had indeed secured a fortune, not just for himself, but for a world in desperate need of a second spring, a renewal of vision and spirit. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss our upcoming stories.